Alright, welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you here. Whether you're a new subscriber, you know what, whether you are a new subscriber, because if you are new to this channel, I would definitely recommend subscribing. We've got bags and bags of really helpful, valuable content that I hope can make your lives a little bit easier. Whether that's in academic, whether that's in fitness, whether that's just in overall mentality or like life and career goals, there's something for everyone. So I do hope all of you new viewers would consider dropping a subscribe. But anyway, today's video, oh my god, my voice is screwed. But anyway, today's video are the top 10 tips that I use for GCSE and A-level to get all 9s at GCSE and then all A stars at A-level and in the EPQ. So I actually did triple science, business, history and PE for GCSE, and then for A-level I did maths, further maths, physics and chemistry, which were quite intensive subjects. They were very STEM based, but that's because I had a passion for the STEM subjects as opposed to the humanities, which is why I went for those. But anyway, these top 10 tips apply for all of the subjects, so don't worry if you are doing things like the humanities, these rules will still apply. With that, a quick warning, these tips are very general tips that help basically boost your performance in all aspects of the academics rather than honing in on specific subjects. If you do want advice on specific subjects, I do have specific videos on all of the subjects I studied for A-level and for GCSE, so if you want to watch those, links are in the description. Otherwise, let's crack on with tip number 1. Now this tip is pretty significant and it's basically just knowing how you're going to organize all of your notes and all of your resources ahead of time. Basically, are you going digital? Where are you going to keep all your notes if you are? And if you are going with physical notebooks, how are you going to store all of that? Are you going to use folders? Are you going to scan them online? Because good organization when it comes to your workflow makes it so much easier to track ideas, to look back on past content when you're in the classroom, to build on top of those concepts, and also just to get better organized for your revision. Because when you've got all of the notes there for different topics, where you know where everything is, it makes it so much easier to look back on, revise, and then create new resources from that information. So that's the first key tip. Now the second tip is being attentive and paying attention in the classroom. Developing an understanding of the content in class gives you the ability to ask extensive questions in that classroom and build a solid foundational understanding of the topic which you can tap into when it comes to your revision. Not being attentive in class means you don't build that solid foundational understanding, so that when it comes to revision you're actually having to learn the content from scratch and not tap into that understanding that you've already built in the classroom. So you might be spending 2 to 3 times as many hours revising. For example, if you had been attentive in class and forged that solid understanding of the content so that you don't have to relearn it at home, you might only spend 4 hours revising a week as opposed to 12, and that is a significant difference, and you're saving so much time outside of school. So like when you're in the classroom, you may as well just learn that there's not really much point wasting that time because you're just gonna have to do it all at home again. Now the third key tip is don't be afraid to ask questions in class. Sixth form and small classes are the perfect environment to ask questions that solidify your understanding. When leaving the questions that you have unanswered, it builds uncertainty in your understanding, so that when it comes to an exam, you're not certain of the answers that you're writing because you're not certain of the understanding that you have to begin with. Asking questions as they come in class essentially lets you bulletproof that understanding, so that when it comes to the actual exam, you can just whiz through questions confident in flipping heck, that was a big voice crack. Confident in the understanding of the question's content so that you can deliver a confident answer and be happy with that answer that you have given. Now tip number 4, and this is an absolutely crucial tip, is just buy the revision guides. The revision guides are single-handedly the most helpful resource you can use because they condense the entire course for pretty much every A-level and GCSE course into just a couple hundred pages that you can use to help bulletproof your understanding, help sieve through all of the stuff you're given in class to find the essential stuff and only the stuff that you need for actual exams and that meets the specification, so that when you're making your revision resources, you only have the stuff that you need to learn. It just optimizes your revision and saves you so much time. Now I've actually linked all of the ones that I use in the description below if you do want to check them out. But otherwise, moving on to tip number 5. This tip is probably one of the most significant tips. This is just getting ahead of your revision from the very start. As soon as you finish a topic in the classroom, go home and make the revision resources. I actually recommend cue cards, and those of you that are on this channel already, you'll know I'm a massive advocate for cue cards. They did wonders for me, led me to get all 9s and all A stars, and honestly I just cannot afford them. So if you want to watch any of my videos on the cue cards, I definitely recommend watching those. But basically the reason why you want to make them as soon as you finish a topic is the longer you leave it after leaving the classroom, the harder it is to tap into that foundational understanding that you reached in the classroom. So for example, there are small things that you use to help you come to terms with a topic that you'll forget if you leave making those resources to a later later date. If you make them as soon as you finish that topic, those pathways that led you to that understanding are still fresh in your mind, so you can make cue cards based on those pathways. So the next time when you're revising those cue cards, you'll be reminded of exactly how you came to a certain understanding of the topic, strengthening those neural pathways and basically making it so that in the exam, even if you don't quite understand a topic, you know exactly how to get straight back to that understanding and then can answer the question. Basically, I'm just saying if you do it as soon as you leave the classroom or as soon as you finish a specific topic, you can explain how you got to an understanding so that when you're revising the content, you don't have to try and find a new path to that understanding, which is a lot more time consuming, essentially making your revision a lot more efficient and saving you lots of time in the long run. Okay, tip number 6 is mocks are your friend. Now, I kind of mean this in a bit of a lazy way, but I always used to find when I was making my revision resources, I wouldn't actually look over those revision resources and I wouldn't commit to spaced repetition or spaced learning of those cue cards, because I always found that actually creating the cue cards was quite time consuming in and of itself, and I didn't have the drive to commit to extra hours on top of all of the homework we were getting, on top of all of the stuff that I was doing outside of A-level. So I just make resources and then leave it until like a week before the exam. But mocks are a godsend because they're quite evenly spaced throughout the year. So all you have to do is spend like 2 weeks prior to each mock season revising for all of those exams, and then that's all you need to do for spaced repetition. I use those mocks as means of doing spaced repetition so that I never looked at any of my revision resources other than during those 2 week periods before those mocks. So it's kind of like laziness, but strategic laziness. Like, you don't have to worry about looking through your resources until like a couple weeks before each of your mock exams, and then by the time it comes to your real exams and you're looking through them again 2 weeks before that, you've already hit it like 3 or 4 times for the 3 or 4 mock seasons that you've got across the year, if that makes sense. Now, tip number 7 is pretty straightforward and hopefully you're all doing it anyway, but basically past papers are essential. Like, there's no point having a solid understanding of the content if you can't apply it in the way that a question asks and in a format that the exam board is actually looking for. Now, the only ways you can understand what that is, like what that exam tech is by actually just doing a bunch of past paper questions. Like, there's no way around it. Like, you understand the content, you do questions, and then you realize exactly what it is they're looking for in the mark schemes, and you better understand the ways they can ask questions on specific topics so you're more prepared to tackle that exam and answer a bunch of questions that are almost identical to the ones you've already answered in the past paper questions. But yeah, if you do want a bunch of past paper questions, I definitely recommend a physics and maths tutor. They were just an absolute godsend. And then for maths, Corbett Maths or GCSE, and then in school if you have access to it for maths A-level. But also just like in the revision guides, they've got loads of questions and you can actually get like workbooks and things that have additional past paper questions. So there's no excuse, essentially. Okay, tip number 8, YouTube is a godsend. Basically, whenever you find yourself struggling to comprehend or come to terms with a topic and understanding of that topic, 99% of the time, especially over GCSE and A-level, someone out there has made a video breaking it down into a really simple, easy to understand format on YouTube that you can watch in like 5 minutes and then suddenly understand everything. I would do this probably, oh my god, another voice crack. I would probably do this almost every day because it's always something that I didn't quite understand from the classroom, and then I didn't want to have to spend time emailing and going back and forth with my teachers so they understood the problem I had. I'd just go on YouTube, I'd watch a quick video and the problem would be solved. That was a lifesaver. And yeah, definitely recommend making the most of YouTube because at uni especially, you realise because the information's a lot more specialised, there is nothing out there like it. So please just make the most of it at GCSE and A-level. It gets so long at uni when you just can't have that quick fix. Right, tip number 9 is looking and making the most of all of the resources that supercharge your revision. So for example, for the STEM subjects, there's things like Snap Revise I've already mentioned in the past. There's also all of my cue cards that are actually listed down in the description that I used to get all 9s at GCSE and all A stars at A-level. But for English GCSE, one that I personally found really hard to revise, First Rate Tutors, the sponsor of today's video and someone I've actually worked with in the past, actually have a brilliant course that covers literally everything and is all you need to get a 9 in GCSE English. So let's go have a look. So the course itself is actually taught by Barbara, a teacher with over 10 years experience teaching GCSE English, and it covers literally everything you need to know from the basic language techniques all the way through to grade 9 model answers, which you can actually use when it comes to the exams. Now obviously, as it is online as well, you can work through it at your own pace, either using it to teach yourself the entire course or just to use it as tailored revision. For example, if you want to know more about anaphora, you can just scroll back up to the basics section and watch a 3-minute video on anaphora that explains everything you need to know. Now not only does she have the main course that covers literally everything, but she also has smaller courses covering the specific books that goes deep into the analysis and also gives you additional model answers for questions specific to those books. So if you do want to check the course out for GCSE, IGCSE, AQA or EdXL, top link in the description below. And obviously GCSE, any of the purchases come with lifetime access to the course, which is constantly being updated. Anyway, back to other Jake. And then finally, tip number 10 is of course subscribing to this YouTube channel. Like, let's be real, I try to post as much motivation as possible. I post a new video aiming to do that every single Monday, and then loads of tips on anything from academics to fitness to general mentality, and just things that are trying to add value to your life so that you can come away feeling like a better person, feeling in a better position, and just feeling a bit more inspired to tackle everything that you want to do in this year and beyond. But then also, obviously, you've got all of the A-level and GCSE content that I've made in the past that exists on this channel. So if you look back through all of the videos I've made, there's bound to be so much value that you guys can take away from it. So I would really appreciate a subscribe. A like on this video would also be a godsend. But otherwise, I hope you have enjoyed. I'll see you next Monday. Bye-bye.
I live inside my own world of make-believe.